Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? You've put in the years with English, you're at C1, you get the complex stuff, you can make yourself understood, but you just hit this wall, this plateau.
Yeah.
Progress just feels like it's ground to a halt. And you start wondering, okay, is it really just more hours, more vocab lists, or is there something else, something, I don't know, fundamental about how you're approaching it?
It's such a common sticking point for C1 learners, and it's exactly what we're going to really unpack today. We're looking at this through a really powerful, maybe even a bit surprising lens. Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay, Covey, interesting angle for language learning.
Right, because these habits, they were designed for, personal and professional life, but they map incredibly well onto mastering English, especially moving from just being proficient to being truly effective. It's about becoming the architect of your own fluency, really taking charge, instead of just being a passive student hoping things click eventually.
Yeah, I like that. The proactive architect, that feels empowering, especially if you feel stuck.
Exactly.
So our mission here is to really dig into each of those 7 habits and see how they apply step by step to your English journey. We'll cover his private victory, mastering yourself, then the public victory, interacting with others, and finally, that crucial habit of renewal. The idea is that these principles can actually break through those plateaus.
Unlock new levels, yeah.
Okay, so let's start with part 1, the private victory. Covey says you've got to master yourself first, build that internal foundation right, before you can really succeed out there with others.
Precisely. Character and discipline. That's what habits 1, 2, and 3 are all about.
Right. Habit 1, be proactive. Now, I initially thought this just meant, get started, do stuff, but it's deeper, isn't it?
Oh, much deeper. It's fundamental. It's recognizing that you are the driver. Your life, your learning, it's driven by your decisions, not just your conditions or circumstances.
Okay, so how does that look different for an English learner, reactive versus proactive?
Well, a reactive learner might say, this class is boring, or I wish I had more motivation, or my teacher isn't great. They focus on things outside their control.
Right, external factors.
Exactly. The proactive learner acknowledges those things might exist, but focuses on their response. They think, okay, this class isn't perfect, so what can I do? How can I find engaging materials? How can I create speaking opportunities?
It's about owning your progress. You essentially become the CEO of your own English education.
The CEO. I like that metaphor. So practically, what does that mean? What are some first steps for someone feeling stuck?
It means actively designing your learning. If the class material isn't hitting the mark, you find your own stuff. Tailor it to your actual interests. Like if you're an architect.
Find architecture podcasts in English. Exactly. Don't just do generic business English if your passion is sustainable design. Hunt for those specific resources. Actively seek out speaking chances. Maybe volunteer for a presentation at work. Join an online discussion group related to your field. And importantly, change your internal language. Instead of, I have to study.
Make it, I choose to invest 30 minutes in improving my negotiation skills.
Precisely. That shift in mindset is huge.
That reminds me of a story about Alejandro, an architect from Madrid. He was in this C1 class for ages, like 2 years, but felt totally stuck conversationally.
Reactive mode.
Totally. Blaming the curriculum, the other students, you name it. Then he had this kind of aha moment. It was his responsibility, nobody else's. So he basically fired his old approach and appointed himself director of English learning.
Love it.
And he started a blog in English called Sustainable Skylines. Just started writing about eco-friendly projects.
Proactive.
Totally. It forced him to read really complex journals, write clearly, deal with comments, even reach out to architects online for interviews. 6 months later, his teacher was just floored by his improvement. It wasn't a magic class. He'd become his own best teacher.
That's a perfect example. He took ownership.
Okay, so that leads nicely into habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. The habit of vision. I guess just saying I want to be fluent isn't really enough, is it?
Not even close. It's far too vague. Covey's point is that everything is created twice, first in the mind, then in reality. Like building a house, you need the blueprint first.
Right. No builder just starts hammering randomly.
Exactly. And I want to be fluent is like saying, I want a house. What kind? Where? How big? It gives you no direction for your daily actions.
Yeah.
You need a really clear, vivid picture of your end.
So how do you actually create that mental blueprint for fluency? Make it concrete?
I strongly suggest writing what you could call a fluency mission statement. Describe your ideal future self using English in a specific, meaningful scenario. Maybe it's confidently leading that 60-minute negotiation with native speakers. See it, Feel it.
Visualize it.
Yes, vividly. Visualize the success, the feeling of ease and confidence. This actually helps prime your brain, tap into neuroplasticity. When your brain knows the target, it gets much better at acquiring the skills needed to hit it. That clear vision then guides all your learning choices. Does this activity move me closer to that specific goal?
I heard about Yuki, a marketer in Osaka who had this issue. Her goal was just improve business English. Very vague.
Right, leads to scattered effort.
Totally. Generic apps, random vocab lists, busy but not really moving the needle. Then she got specific. Her end in mind became presenting a global launch strategy confidently on a stage in New York.
Wow, that's specific.
Super specific. And immediately her learning shifted. She started analyzing TED Talks on marketing, joined Toastmasters for public speaking practice, used tutors just for role-playing tough Q&A sessions. Everything aligned with that New York stage vision.
Did it work?
Well, about a year later, she did a co-presentation internally that was so impressive, she got put on the global launch team for their next big product. Maybe not the New York stage yet, but she was definitely on the path she designed.
Fantastic. That clarity makes all the difference.
Okay, so you've got proactivity, you've got the vision. Habit 3, put first things first. This feels like where the planning meets reality. Effective self-management.
Exactly. This is the physical creation, the day-to-day execution based on habits 1 and 2. It's about prioritizing, specifically distinguishing between what feels urgent and what is genuinely important for reaching that end in mind.
And that's where we often get tripped up, right? The urgent stuff screams loudest.
It does. The Eisenhower matrix is brilliant for this.
Yeah.
The 4 quadrants: urgent, important, not urgent, important, urgent, not important, not urgent, not important.
Right.
For long-term C1 growth, the magic happens in quadrant 2. Not urgent, but important.
What kinds of things fall in there for language learning?
Things like deliberate practice on your specific speaking weaknesses, building specialized vocabulary for your field, planning and preparing for those key communication scenarios you visualize in habit 2. Maybe deep reading challenging articles in your domain. These are the high leverage activities.
They don't feel urgent day to day, but they build the foundation.
Precisely. And they often get squeezed out by quadrant 3 stuff, the urgent but not important things, like constantly checking language app notifications, endlessly scrolling social media feeds in English without a clear goal.
Guilty as charged sometime.
We all are. The key is to proactively schedule your quadrant 2 activities. Treat them like important appointments you cannot miss, because they are the activities that will actually move you towards mastery and prevent you feeling overwhelmed.
There was Fatima, a doctor from Egypt, preparing for her PLAB exams, those tough UK medical exams.
Ah, yes, very high stakes.
She was drowning in information, constantly busy, but not sure she was focusing on the right things, felt overwhelmed. When she applied the Eisenhower matrix, she had a bit of a shock.
What did she find?
She realized she was spending tons of time on quadrant the 3rd, like rereading basic grammar rules she already knew, just because it felt like studying. Urgent, maybe, but not truly important for her next step. Her analysis showed the crucial quadrant 2 activity was practicing realistic patient communication scenarios in English.
Ah, the clinical skills part. Makes sense.
So she made a radical shift. Slashed time on general vocab apps and instead scheduled 3 non-negotiable 1-hour sessions each week, role-playing patient consultations with a tutor, focused high-leverage practice. And she said it made all the difference in feeling prepared and confident for the exam.
That's putting first things first in action. Brilliant.
Okay, so that covers the private victory, getting your own house in order. Now we move to the public victory, where you're interacting with others. This is where the rubber really meets the road for communication skills, right?
Absolutely. Habits 4, 5, and 6 are about effective interdependence, how you work with others.
Let's kick off with habit 4. Think win-win. Sounds nice, but what does it really mean in practice, especially for language learning?
It's more than just being nice, as you said. It's a fundamental mindset that in any interaction, you're seeking mutual benefit. Covey talks about other paradigms like win-lose, I win, you lose, or lose-win, I lose, you win.
Or even lose-lose.
Right. But he argues win-win is the only truly sustainable approach long-term, especially when people rely on each other. For language practice, it means viewing interactions, say, with native speakers, not as a transaction where you just take practice.
But as building a relationship.
Exactly. How can you create value for the other person, too? Maybe in a language exchange, you don't just ask for corrections, you actively offer help with their target language or share insights from your culture or profession.
So, finding ways to contribute.
Yes. Create value. Be a contributor in group chats, not just a passive participant. Build on others' ideas. When people feel you're invested in mutual benefit, they become far more invested in your success, too. It fosters genuine connection, which is incredibly motivating.
I remember reading about David, a software developer from Brazil. He found those typical language exchange apps a bit
Yeah.
shallow, transactional, like you said.
Yeah, they can feel that way.
He wanted better technical English for contributing to open source projects, so he tried a win-win approach. He posted on a developer forum saying something like, "Hey, I'll build this simple web app with you. We do all the planning and coding talk in English, and in return, maybe you could help review the English in my project documentation."
Clever. A collaborative project.
Yeah. He found an American data analyst interested in the project itself. They worked together, both benefited hugely. He got tons of specific technical English practice and context. She got a useful tool built. It was a true win-win that went way beyond simple conversation practice.
That's a fantastic creative application of the principle.
Okay, now habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. You mentioned earlier this won't be an antidote to speaking anxiety. How does that work?
It's incredibly powerful. Possibly the single most important habit for interpersonal communication. Most of us, most of the time, listen with the intent to reply, not to truly understand. We're formulating our response while the other person is still talking.
Thinking about what I'm going to say next.
Exactly. Habit 5 flips that completely. Your primary goal becomes, am I genuinely understanding this person's perspective, their feelings, their meaning, from their point of view?
And that reduces anxiety, how?
Because it takes the spotlight off you and your performance.
Yeah.
Your mental energy shifts from, am I saying this right? What word should I use? To, what is this person really trying to convey? It lowers the pressure immensely. Plus, when people feel truly heard, it builds incredible trust and rapport. Psychological safety.
That makes sense. It shifts the cognitive load. So how do we practice this? What are the techniques?
Empathetic listening. One key technique is paraphrasing, restating the other person's point in your own words to check understanding. So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying, or, okay, so the main challenge seems to be...
Not just repeating, but showing you've processed it.
Right. And listen for the feeling behind the words, not just the facts. Wow, that sounds really frustrating, or I can see why you'd feel concerned about that. And resist that powerful urge to immediately jump in with your own opinion or solution. Just focus on understanding first. It's harder than it sounds.
Oh, I bet. I heard about Chloe, a French junior diplomat at the UN. Initially, in tense negotiations, she was all about her own arguments, planning her rebuttal while others spoke. Smart, but not connecting.
Classic listening to reply mode.
Right. Her mentor suggested focusing on habit 5. So in a difficult discussion on water rights, she deliberately really listened to another delegate expressing deep concerns. When he finished, instead of arguing, she paused and said something like, "Thank you. Let me see if I understand." The core issue isn't just the amount of water, it's the security and predictability of that flow, because that directly impacts thousands of families' livelihoods. Is that capturing it?
Wow. What happened?
Apparently, the whole mood in the room shifted. He visibly relaxed. It built a bridge. She realized that making someone feel truly understood was more powerful in that moment than having the perfect counter-argument.
That's habit 5 perfectly illustrated. Understanding builds trust.
Okay, which brings us to habit 6, synergize, creative cooperation. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. How does this apply beyond just, group projects?
Synergy is about valuing differences, different perspectives, different skills, and combining them to create something new, something better than what anyone could do alone. For a C1 learner who feels they've hit a plateau with solo study, this is key. Don't just learn in isolation.
So mixing things up, combining skills.
Exactly. Combine skills in your own practice, like listen to a podcast, then immediately record yourself summarizing the key points. Or read an opinion piece, then write a response arguing the opposite view. It forces different parts of your brain to work together.
Makes sense.
But the real power often comes from synergizing with others. I strongly recommend forming a small mastermind group, maybe just 2 or 3 other serious C1 learners.
What would they do?
Meet regularly, review each other's writing, give specific feedback, conduct mock job interviews, take turns presenting on a topic you're learning about. You leverage the group's collective knowledge, different strengths, and that crucial element of accountability. The feedback you get from peers who understand the struggle can be invaluable.
It pushes everyone further faster.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Synergy in action.
Like that Synergy study group story, Maria, Kenji, and Lars, all prepping for IELTS, all felt stuck studying alone.
Right.
So they formed a weekly group. Maria was apparently great with complex grammar. Kenji was a really sharp writer. And Lars was just, fearless when it came to speaking, even if not always perfectly accurate.
Different strengths.
Exactly. They didn't just study together, they synergized. Maria taught mini grammar lessons, Kenji led detailed essay reviews, Lars pushed them through spontaneous speaking drills, they played to each other's strengths, and the result.
Let me guess, they all did well.
All three blew past their target scores. It really showed how that creative cooperation, valuing those differences, propelled them forward.
That's the power of synergy. Don't go it alone.
Okay, finally, the habit that holds it all together. Habit 7, sharpen the saw. This feels vital for the long haul, right? Avoiding burnout.
Absolutely critical. As Kevy said, you can't keep sawing effectively if your saw is dull. This habit is about continuous renewal, preserving your most important asset, yourself, so your learning journey is sustainable, maybe even joyful.
Because burnout is the enemy on a long road like language mastery.
It really is. Sharpening the saw means consciously taking time to renew yourself across 4 dimensions. Covey identified them as physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Okay, let's break those down for an English learner. Physical.
It's foundational. Getting enough sleep, eating well, exercise. Your brain simply works better for language acquisition when your body is cared for. Maybe try learning walks. Listen to an English podcast while getting some fresh air and movement.
Okay. Social, emotional.
Don't let your practice become isolating. Connect with language partners or study buddies you actually enjoy talking to. That positive social interaction fuels motivation and makes it feel less like a chore. Find your tribe.
Mental renewal, is that just taking a break?
It can be, but it's also about learning how to learn more effectively. Step back and sharpen your learning tools. Maybe research concepts like comprehensible input or spaced repetition systems. Understand the science behind language acquisition. Renewing your strategy is just as important as practicing the language itself.
Interesting.
And spiritual renewal.
This is about connecting with your deeper why. Why are you on this journey? Revisit that vision from habit 2. Acknowledge and celebrate how far you've already come. Gratitude. And yes, sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is take a planned break, a no English weekend, perhaps to rest completely and come back refreshed and re-energized.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about sustainability.
Exactly. Maintaining energy and enthusiasm for the long game.
So wrapping this all up, it feels like the big takeaway from this deep dive is that getting to that truly effective level in English isn't just about language knowledge. It's really about character, about how you approach the whole process.
That's the core of it. These 7 habits offer a blueprint, a timeless framework, for shifting from being that passive student stuck on a plateau to becoming a confident, proactive, influential communicator in English.
The habits that make you effective in life are pretty much the same habits that make you effective in English.
Precisely. Your fluency isn't just hiding in a grammar book. It's built through your character, your choices, your proactive approach. So if you're listening and you feel that C1 plateau, maybe the question isn't just, what more should I study? Maybe it's, what's one small proactive shift inspired by one of these habits that you could make today?
Yeah.
Which habit resonates most right now? How could you apply just a piece of it starting today to really begin architecting your own fluency journey? Something to think about.